I regarded my future husband almost as a legend. I had just enrolled in film school in New York, and he was already a successful director with a name, whose films were discussed at festivals across the country. When he talked about Kubrick, Fincher, or Tarantino, I listened with bated breath, as if every word were a revelation. In the evenings, I would sit on the couch in his small Brooklyn apartment and think, this is the man. This is the life. It seemed that if I could be close to him, I would become part of this magical world of cinema myself. But the first months of marriage showed that reality was far from romantic. Cinema remained our only topic of conversation. Everything else, from everyday issues to personal desires, seemed alien. I wanted children. Every day, my desire grew stronger, but my emotional closeness to him was minimal. From time to time, he would say something clever, sometimes funny, but it gave me neither warmth nor support. The first months of marriage proved to be a test. I lost my appetite, lost 10 kilograms, and almost stopped sleeping. I spent all day shooting my short films, desperately trying to fill the void. I shot scenes in old New York apartments, in parks, where even the leaves seemed part of my inner chaos. I didn't have the money for a full film crew. I had one cameraman, 3 actor friends, and a young guy who served as editor, lighting technician, assistant, and sometimes even a second actor. He was completely different from my husband. He was simple, attentive, had no bad habits, was loyal, and was always ready to help. At first, his concern seemed sweet and almost amusing, but then it began to irritate me slightly, though this irritation stemmed more from surprise than from him personally. The main thing was something else. Being with him made me realize for the first time how empty my marriage was. The further I was from my husband, the more I felt that I was not living my own life. My dreams of children and family happiness seemed unattainable, and with that came a strange, anxious excitement, a feeling that something important was waiting for me ahead, something that could turn everything I knew about myself and my relationships upside down. That summer, I went to California for an internship, where I shot an independent drama about how hard it is for a woman to be misunderstood in a world that doesn't want to hear her. It was my first independent work, a small film with a limited budget, but with enormous emotional weight. There was only enough money for a minimal crew, 3 actor friends, a cameraman, and the same young guy who was also the editor, lighting technician, assistant director, and sometimes a minor actor. He knew how to do everything that was required and even more. His dedication and attentiveness sometimes made me laugh. But in reality, I was exhausted. My husband stayed in New York, and his rare phone calls seemed like a formality. We stopped discussing anything other than movies, and I felt my heart growing colder every day. The desire to have a child, which had once been the main purpose of my life, dissolved into emptiness. I tried to focus on the filming, on the actors, on each shot, but inside me there was a growing feeling that I was losing myself. One day, I noticed that a young editor was staying after filming to help with the night's editing. He brought coffee, checked the lighting, and neatly tidied up the mess I left behind. At first, it felt strange to me. I was used to my husband's intellectual attention, to conversations about culture and philosophy, and here was a simple, straightforward, strong guy who didn't ask for explanations but just acted. He was real, without pretension, without pathos. And gradually, this simplicity began to attract me. I liked that he knew how to listen not only with words, but also with actions. His care was physical and concrete. Small gestures that had previously seemed banal to me now touched me deeply. For the first time in a long time, I felt alive, real. It was then that I began to understand that the emptiness in my marriage was not accidental. It was a signal. I was looking for something else, something real. And although I didn't fully realize it at the time, it was that summer, those shoots, those little moments with the editor, that began to change everything. My understanding of love, intimacy, and myself. The summer in California was hot, even by Los Angeles standards. I was shooting my little drama about a woman who feels like a stranger in her own world, and every scene was a struggle. There was no money for a full film crew, just 3 actor friends, a cameraman, and a young editor who seemed to know how to do everything. He fiddled with the camera and the lighting, sometimes prompting the actors and carefully correcting my chaotic notes on the script. His dedication and discipline were impressive. At first, I was amused that he literally followed me around. In the evening, after a long day of filming, he would walk me to my temporary accommodation and stand under my window until I turned off the light. At first, it seemed cute, then a little annoying, but gradually I began to notice that his presence brought a sense of security. Unlike my husband, who could talk about great directors and philosophy, this guy took action, and that spoke volumes. One evening, after a long day of filming, the two of us were left alone in the editing room. Music played quietly on the laptop, and the light from the lamp cast soft shadows on the walls. I noticed how he looked at me, not arrogantly, not judgmentally, but with interest and concern. At that moment, something clicked inside me. I suddenly felt my body responding to his attention. The emotions I had long tried to suppress coming back to life with renewed force. What began as friendly support and respect gradually turned into a tension that was difficult to ignore. For the first time in a long time, I felt like a fragile, real woman, not just a girl trying to prove something in marriage or in the movies. With this guy, there was no pretentiousness, no conversations about great movies or philosophical debates, just honesty, simplicity, and an undeniable passion. Those days were a revelation for me. It turns out that with the right person, you can feel completely yourself. And despite my fear and guilt, I knew that this summer would change my life. What began as friendly closeness and mutual support gradually grew into something much more intense. We both understood that it was risky. I was married, he was younger than me, and our acquaintance was limited to the film set. But it was impossible to ignore what was happening between us. Every touch, every glance made my heart beat faster. For the first time, I felt that my body and mind could be in harmony, and my emotions could be alive, not suppressed. He was not at all like my husband. He was not intellectual or arrogant, but simple and genuine. He didn't talk about philosophy or film history. He didn't try to impress me with words. He acted, he cared, listened, supported. And this simplicity, his honesty and physical closeness awakened feelings in me that I had long considered lost. With him, I felt like a real woman, fragile, desirable, significant. Our romance was passionate and unexpected. We hid it from everyone, and there was a special intrigue in that, which only intensified the emotions. Every moment together was like a little discovery. I discovered new facets of pleasure, trust, and emotional intimacy that I had never known with my husband. With him, there was no pressure, no expectations, no judgments, only real feelings. That summer became a mirror for me, reflecting my true nature. I realized that I needed a man who knew how to love not with words, but with actions. A man who respects, cares for, and sees in a woman not only intelligence, but also the desire to be loved and desired. At the same time, I felt shame and conflict. Having grown up in a family that valued education and status, I knew I had cheated on my husband with someone outside my circle. It was shameful, but I couldn't stop myself. Every day with him showed me what real passion and real intimacy should be like, and that feeling was too strong to ignore. Summer ended, filming came to a close, but the lessons I learned stayed with me forever. For the first time, I realized that happiness and love are not just about shared interests or intellectual conversations, but also about the ability to feel, trust, and be yourself around another person. After filming ended, I returned to New York. Summer was over, the editor stayed in California, and our connection was severed. I tried to return to my normal life with my husband, hoping that I could repair our relationship. But every conversation reminded me of the emptiness that had existed between us since the beginning of our marriage. His rare displays of affection were superficial. Our conversations about movies were formal, and there was no real emotional intimacy. I tried to be patient, believing that love is work, that feelings can be awakened or restored. But 5 years of marriage proved the opposite. The more I tried to bring back what we once had, the clearer it became to me that I was no longer the girl who used to listen to him with bated breath. My desires had changed, and I could no longer ignore them. The scandal that followed erupted like a fire. I came back from another shoot, tired and irritated, and in a moment I just laid everything out for my husband. What I thought about our marriage, about his films, about how little we understood each other, and how I had changed over the years. I also told him about the affair in California. about everything that helped me understand what I needed to be happy. His reaction was shocking. He unleashed a torrent of words, accusations, and emotions that I had never imagined before. He talked about how much he loved me, how he wanted children, how he expected to continue the family line. But in the absence of an heir and an emotional connection, he blamed me. We argued, we shouted, and for the first time, I felt that it was impossible to continue living together. A month later, we were officially divorced. It was painful and liberating at the same time. Inside, I felt a strange sense of relief, as if the long years of waiting and compromise had finally come to a logical conclusion. I lost my husband, but I gained the opportunity to be myself, live my own life, and make decisions that truly make me happy. It was after this divorce that I felt true freedom for the first time. The freedom to follow my desires, dreams, and feelings without compromise or internal restrictions. After the divorce, I felt a strange sense of relief and, at the same time, trepidation about the future. After receiving my degree in film directing, I immediately went to work on an independent film. It was a chance to start my life over, immerse myself in work and creativity, and perhaps meet someone who was truly right for me. And I met him. My new husband is a ski instructor from a small mountain resort in Colorado. He is completely different. Simple, honest, with strong physical energy and an incredible sense of humor. He didn't discuss movies or philosophy, but he knew how to listen, support, and be there in the most ordinary situations. His love was practical, warm, and unconditional. And for the first time, I felt that I could be myself completely with him, without fears or pretensions. We got married and had a son. His little hands, laughter, and trust in the world taught me to appreciate simple joys and genuine feelings. In this new marriage, I felt that happiness was possible, not as the ideal I had dreamed of before, but as a real, living, warm feeling of home and family. But sometimes my heart returns to that California summer and the young editor. I remember how I felt desired for the first time, how I discovered passion and emotional intimacy that were impossible with my first husband. I understand that it was this experience that helped me understand what I really want from life and from the man next to me. Now I know that happiness does not come from meeting other people's expectations or intellectual prestige. It comes when you have someone by your side who sees you for who you really are, accepts you, and supports you. And it was thanks to that stifling summer, those small film shoots, and that chance encounter that I realized what kind of man I needed and what makes me truly happy. Life has taught me to value sincerity, simplicity, and genuine feelings. And now, with my son and beloved husband, I can finally say to myself, I am free, I am loved, and I am real.